One of the things that most of us fall in love with when we first discover Lolita is this. That immaculate, glorious poof that we all know and love, giving off that endearing, girlish, and charming baby doll effect that is just to die for. If you couldn't already tell, this video is going to be all about petticoats. Petticoats are a staple of Lolita fashion. If you don't already know what they are, they're the poofy, tutu-like undergarment that goes under the skirt of your dress to give the effect of your dress sitting out. Yes, if you're new to the fashion, you may not realize this, but Lolita dresses aren't inherently made this way. There is nothing about their construction that makes them sit out on their own, and they are not going to sit out like this all by themselves. This is why a petticoat is a must-have for Lolitas. Despite how important petticoats are, you often see newer Lolitas posting their first coordinate photos without a petticoat and frequently wondering why they don't look like other Lolitas, not even realizing how important a petticoat is to a cord. There's a ton of misconceptions about petticoats that I'd like to address before we get into the nitty-gritty. Some of those common misconceptions are: petticoats are just a cherry on top to a cord, and you don't need one to be a proper Lolita. Not true. While there are some exceptions, such as old school and some daily wear, most Lolita substyles require a petticoat or a hoop skirt. Without it, you're just wearing a dress, unfortunately. I want to focus on more important aspects of my cord first, like accessories, purses, wigs, and shoes. None of those are more important than your petticoat. There's no point in showing up with all of the toppings of a pizza but leaving the crust at home. Seriously, I'm going to show an example of this later, but you would be surprised at just how off a coordinate looks without having a petticoat on. I know I need a petticoat, but can I get concrete on everything else? Personally, I think it would be best for you to refrain from posting coordinate photos without a petticoat because it's going to be the only thing Lolitas notice, speaking completely honestly. While you certainly can, and most Lolitas aren't going to give you a hard time for it, you do want to refrain from it, generally speaking, if possible, because it's just the most glaring issue to a coordinate. When you don't have one, it's just very, very jarring to most of us, and the vast majority of comments I guarantee that you're going to get are saying, "Get yourself a petticoat ASAP." So let's talk a little bit about some petticoat details and frequently asked questions. Petticoats come in two main styles, A-line and cupcake. A-line is more used in classic, gothic, old school, chi, hua, and other more mature or elegant styles. Cupcakes are used for sweet and most variations of sweet. This is not to say that a petticoat of a certain type cannot be used with a dress of the other type, but they generally follow this pattern. For example, A-lines can be better if your dress is high-waisted, even if it's a sweet print. It depends more on the dress itself than anything else. The color of your petticoat really doesn't matter, as it's not supposed to be seen. Remember, it's your undergarment, but you should ideally get one that is white if the lace of your dress is white, and black if the lace is black. That way it won't look so jarring if it just so happens to show, maybe if you're sitting down or something. There are other types of petticoats that come in a wide variety of colors, rainbows, yellows, pinks, and those are fine to have as well. The most important thing is that, well, they're the proper shape for your dress. So why is it that Lolitas are so scared to buy their petticoats first? As we've already established, this is pretty much the most important part of your coordinate and the thing that you should really be trying to get into your closet before any other type of accessory. Well, I think the main reason is pretty obvious. Most people don't know how to shop for petticoats, such as the proper length and number of layers. If you've never purchased a petticoat before, which is most likely going to be all of us before getting into the fashion, then of course you're not really going to know how to shop for one. Petticoat length is a critical reason why I believe many Lolitas are concerned about buying their first petticoat, because it's often recommended to wait until you receive your dress before buying it to make sure that it's the proper length. But the wait for most dresses to arrive is already quite long, and there's nothing worse than having to wait to get your first dress and then wait even longer before you wear it or post pictures of it because you don't have the proper petticoat. Even worse is if you try to buy your petticoat early only to realize that it's not giving you the right amount of poof or isn't the proper length. While it isn't impossible to make it work, it's difficult to make a petticoat that's too long shorter without cutting it or rolling it up on your waist, which may or may not be uncomfortable, or a short petticoat longer without it simply being uncomfortable to wear because it's just too low on your hips or something like that. That's why I'm going to do a review of a petticoat that I think is a perfect all-rounder petticoat that can be used with tons of different types of dresses, brands, styles, and dress lengths. So we've already talked about how important petticoats are to a cord, but just in case there are still any non-believers who think you can get away with it, I'm going to show you that you really just can't. You can have all the hair accessories you need, you can have your wig, you can have the right shoes, the right socks, bracelets, jewelry, you may even have a full set going on that matches perfectly. But without a petticoat, you're just not wearing Lolita. This is why you're going to need to have just the right petticoat for you. And this is what I consider to be an awesome petticoat for beginners. This is Boguta's ultra-violent 45cm petticoat. Whenever something is translated as violent, it just means poofy. This petticoat has 5 layers, 2 to 3 more than what is recommended as a standard level and decent amount of poof. It's entirely up to you how much poof you're comfortable wearing, but if you're a walking poof monster like myself and you love sweet, you're absolutely going to want this. It has the perfect amount of poof to not need to wear 2 or 3 petticoats just to get the ideal cupcake shape, which is going to be a whole lot more comfortable. Additionally, I found that the 45cm length is a perfect neutral length that can fit most dresses. If you're into angelic pretty, I find that it's perfect for those dresses, and pretty much all of my Taobao dresses that don't have a high waist. This petticoat also comes with drawstrings, and I don't know if other petticoats do, but I really like that this one has it because it can tighten around your waist so that it's not slipping or falling down. And while I don't know what this part right here is officially called, I noticed that it really is what's creating the cupcake shape. So if you ever want to have like more of an A-line shape without buying a whole new petticoat, you can just shove it in the skirt as I'm doing here, and suddenly you have an A-line without needing to buy a whole new petticoat. Now that I've explained this to you, I'm going to show off a few examples of dresses with this petticoat. I'll try to include the measurements of all the dresses in the description and a general review of how I feel this petticoat works for the dress that I'm wearing. Starting with Unicorn Macaron Dessert Station, I think this petticoat fits nicely under it. It's pretty much the perfect length. I think you can get away with wearing a petticoat that is slightly shorter than 45cm, but not too much shorter than that because it starts to look very obvious where the petticoat cuts off and isn't a very flattering look. Otherwise, as you can see, it fits very nicely under this dress, which isn't too heavy, and so it gives it a very nice shape. Now let's take a look at some brand. Here's Angelic Pretty's Little Witch. So Little Witch is an interesting one because it kind of gives off a bit of a gothic flair, especially in the black colorway, but the cupcake shape doesn't look too bad on it because it does still have those sweet elements to it. I find that it fits very nicely, and this dress in particular doesn't have any waist ties, and it still looks nice. Here's a look at Milky Cross next. And once again, it gives a very nice shape. So Milky Cross is one of those dresses that I think looks a little bit better with an A-line petticoat. With this one, and I have that extra bit on top pushed in a little bit here to give it more of that A-line effect, and I think it looks really nice. Let's look at a JSK now. Here's my Dark Knight Cross. And just like Milky Cross, it looks very nice with the more of the A-line shape to it. Honestly, I've worn this both ways with both the cupcake and the A-line shape, and I think both of them actually look pretty nice. So I wouldn't worry if I were you about which one you go with. Whichever one looks nicer to you when you have it on is the best way to go. I wanted to try this one out with one of my high-waisted JSK since I don't typically find that it works the best with it. But after wearing it like this, I do think it looks pretty nice. I don't really mind the fact that I have to pull it up a little bit higher, as long as it doesn't create too much of an awkward shape, and I don't think that it does personally. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below though. Now for a bit of a heavier dress. This is my denim dress from Civil Heisei. And look at that, still looks great. Gives the perfect amount of poof in my opinion and doesn't look too heavy either. If a petticoat is not enough to handle the heaviness of a dress, the dress is going to look a little bit flattened and isn't going to give you the proper Lolita silhouette. So that's when you're going to want to make sure that you have the nice, perfect amount of layers for the dress. Again, my petticoat is 5 layers and it doesn't look horrible with this dress. Actually, I think it looks nice. I'm showing off my 2 chi dresses that, I'm going to be real, I didn't feel like putting on, but they do look fine with this petticoat. So, everything checks out with this petticoat then, right? Looks like it fits all types of dresses, lengths, it's all good, but what about for a salopette? Those are a little bit shorter, aren't they? Can you really wear this with this dress? let's try and see. Yeah, that's not the best look, is it? For something like this, you're going to want the 35 centimeter Boguta Petticoat. So this is from the exact same brand, pretty much the exact same petticoat, but it's just 35 centimeters. As you can see, it still has the drawstrings, and it has those nice 5 layers. It doesn't have the little cupcake shape maker thing on it, but I find it doesn't really need it for something this short. As you can see, it still creates a nice shape for something as short as a salopette, and you're still getting that poof that you need. So it's not going to be too overbearing or anything. I actually find this petticoat nice to wear with my other dresses when I don't want to create such a massive amount of poof next to someone I might be sitting next to. But it's definitely perfect if you are someone who prefers salopettes and skirts. Here's my rainbow dollhouse that I wore on purpose because it actually comes with a built-in petticoat, but as you can see, it's really not that noticeable without an actual petticoat. But now that I have mine on, you can see that it is a whole lot better. That cupcake shape is so much more noticeable and nicer now. And it just gives it the silhouette that we've been looking for. So if you prefer salopettes or skirts or shorter length dresses, then the 35 centimeter is absolutely for you. And if you prefer other length dresses that are a little bit longer, typical standard length dresses, you're going to want the 45 centimeter. I'm showing it off here on my hanger just to show that it is very simple to store. You just put it on a hanger like this, and you can store it right away in your closet. With my 35 centimeter, I actually store it in the plastic bag that it came in because it's small enough to fit in there and isn't such a pain to put in there. That's about it for this video. I hope the information was helpful to you, and now you know everything you need to know about petticoats. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to help you. And I'm going to be making a separate video about hoop skirts. I was going to include it in this video, but I thought it was getting a bit lengthy, so hoop skirts will be in the next video. The final thing I wanted to mention is that none of this is sponsored. I am not getting paid for this by Boguta. I'm not an undercover actor or anything. I just think this is a really nice petticoat, and if I had to recommend one, I would definitely recommend this one. I also don't see too many reviews for Boguta. I see a lot for like Aurora and Ariel and classical puppets, but not really Boguta, so I just wanted to give this one a little bit of a review. But it is not sponsored. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.